Hi Honeywood, I'll keep this brief and simple. My passion is fitness. There's a great community, so I'd like to do my little bit for it by sharing something that I know, and that is movement or fitness. So if you want these videos to continue, just say so. If you're not interested, just say Gio, no more, and it's all good. I'll make them brief, and they'll come about every now and then. This first one here is about a squat. So many times I see people like doing squats, but they say their knees hurt and so on when they do them. And a lot of times it's just as simple as changing a couple of things to make sure that they do the exercise safely and they get the most benefit out of it. I'll quickly talk about what not to do. Okay, you see a lot of videos on the internet and so on where they say that you should keep your knees behind the toes and you have to sit back and keep the shins parallel and so on. The only problem with that is if you're talking like anatomy and so on, you're not given a place for the hip to fall into, so you're going to be off balance. I'll give you an instance, okay? So if I was to keep my knees in front and sit back into that imaginary chair, all of a sudden I've made my body really long, so it's really hard for me to center myself, all right? So tip number one, forget a lot of the stuff that you see on the internet, okay? Secondly, let's go through the basics of it. You want to go into a stance that is slightly wider than shoulder width apart, okay? Common mistake that I see is people starting the movement at the knees, so they'll break at the knee and then they'll follow on to the squat. Now if you have a look at that, there is a lot of stress onto the front part of the exercise, and a lot of the people will end up into these raised heel position, and all of a sudden there is a lot of stress on the knees and you're like, oh well, our squat's really that good for you. So tip number one, don't break at the knee, break at the hip first. So there's going to be two movements. It's a chop, okay, posterior and anterior pelvic tilt. It's a chop to a drop, okay. So once you chop at the hip, you drop the hip into an open groin, and that's tip number two. When you squat, don't leave the knees in front of you because you've got nowhere for the hip to go to. So when you do squat, once again, slightly wider than shoulder width apart, what you want to do is chop, drop, open the groin, okay? If you open up the groin, you allow the place for that hip to fall into. All of a sudden, I'm now nice and centered, okay? Everything feels good around the knees. The glute is going to start to activate. You got a nice flat foot, and you can come back up. If you can't go all the way down, let's say this is you, okay? That's absolutely fine. Some people, they'll go into it alright and then they find themselves rounding here at the spine and then coming back up. If you're going to do this continuously, you could place a little bit of stress on the lower back. So realistically what you're looking for is to create that imaginary line between the hip and the shoulders, okay? So we chop, we drop, somewhere to about here, okay? If anywhere past that your butt starts to tuck in or you start to round, then just work with the flexibility that you've got, okay? So chop, drop, down and up. When you come up, bring the shoulders and the hip up at the same time. So we don't want to raise first and then follow through. It's one movement, trying to keep that nice flat back. Once again, wide, about so. Okay, you can go slightly wider if you want, it's up to you. Don't go too wide, otherwise you limit, once again, how low you can go. Slightly wider, chop, drop, face up, push up, okay? There is a whole lot of issues that can come from tight hamstrings, tight quads, tight hip flexors, poor ankle mobility, but if you're interested, I'll go through those in a different video and tell you how you can stretch out and release some of those places where we tense up a lot due to the jobs and the lifestyle that we live. Hope you enjoyed this.